Mono Blue Self-Mill. There is really not a whole lot to say. This is the first deck that I created after Theros actually launched. Let's just real quick call it. I'm misclicking everywhere. This is fantastic UI. I love it. Who could ever complain about it, right? This is Mono Blue Self-Mill, the biggest creature, or not necessarily the biggest creature, but the creature that we care about the most in this deck is Thassa's Oracle. We mill ourselves using Wall of Lost Thoughts, Merfolk Secretkeeper, and then obviously Drowned Secrets. The problem is with this deck is that sadly we get just beat up by giant creatures. That's why we are actually running Casmina's Transmutation. I don't think that in Mono Blue, there isn't really a great pool of removal. Transforming their creatures into 1/1s is really good for us, simply because if they have something like a Questing Beast, we normally wouldn't be able to block them. Thanks to that, it's only a 1/1 if it punches us, and we don't have any of our 3 creatures to block us. Then the other spells are obviously we have Jace, also to win the game if we don't have a Thassa's Oracle, or just for card draw in general, because he's also a pretty decent card draw tool that we can use every turn without spending extra mana on. Also, it could just pull some aggro from our face. Mu Yanling is the same thing. It's not necessarily for a card draw because the ultimate is relatively hard to get off, but the plus stops our aggro from actually just punching our faces in, and the 4/4 is also a really good blocker, and maybe we will be able to sneak away some wins with this. Callous Dismissal, again, it produces a blocker, it bounces a creature. There's nothing really more to say about this. It prolongs the game, it slows our opponent down. Drowned Secrets, obviously the mill card. Medomai's Prophecy and Omen of the Sea. These two cards are one of the 2 most powerful mono blue card draw spells that are currently in the meta. That's at least something that I believe, simply because this scries 2 and then you potentially draw 2 cards. Obviously, if your opponent makes you discard a card, or if you choose, for example, a removal spell and he forces you to use it a turn earlier or instant speed on his turn, then you won't be drawing any cards off of this. But simply the fact that you could for 2 mana, that's pretty good value. Then Omen of the Sea, it's a scry 2 draw a card. It's basically a somewhat better opt, and we are playing 2 opts, but we are playing opt simply because we only are playing Merfolk Secretkeepers on 1, and we don't necessarily want to not do anything on 1, right? So I decided to put some opts into here. We are only playing 2 Sweet Oblivions, and that's because as soon as one is in the graveyard, the other one becomes useless. These cards don't leave the graveyard, meaning that you can have 4 of them. If all of them are in your graveyard, you could just. It's the same as if you had 1 of them in your graveyard. Yes, you can cast them from your hand, but a 2 mana put the top 4 cards into your graveyard isn't really that great. Not because the effect is bad, but simply because imagine your opponent having 60 health and you would cast a lightning bolt at their face. That's not something that's going to bring you to the victory relatively soon. Now, I'm just looking. Is that the same card? Enchanted creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness 1. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and is a blue frog creature with base power. Okay, so in this case, they wouldn't actually lose that. I'm actually going to throw this in over the Casmina's Transmutation, simply because if there is someone going around playing tribal, well then that pretty much screws them over. So that's good. In their sideboard, I'm just going to quickly throw this together, but you could play some Cerulean Drake simply as blockers. You could play obviously the Aether Gusts, then maybe slower card draw if you're against control. We also have the flexible counter spells. Now you could easily, right, easily just swap this deck around, maybe play this in the sideboard as well, and just start milling your opponent maybe game 2 if it's a control deck and he's not expecting it. Then what else could you play? I guess mission briefing would be possible. Runaway together is another decent option. This is instant speed if you know that your opponent is primarily creature heavy deck and he doesn't actually play any planeswalkers or enchantments, which currently are a lot of enchantments, I mean. Then you could just put out the Callous Dismissal, maybe put in the Runaway together. It's a meme deck. It's not a proper deck. Do not play this on ladder. Do not craft this if you don't have the rare wild cards for it. I don't have the rare wild cards for it, but I love Mill. I think it's a fantastic, a funny, for me at least, win condition, and to win with that, you could maybe play a fourth Brazen Borrower, maybe one in the sideboard, right? And if we check at the artifacts, not at the lands, or at least I believe there is nothing really that important. By the way, I chose to not play any Fabled Passages simply because that there could be the possibility I only play 22 lands because 4 is our top end and we don't necessarily need it. That if I only have 3 lands and I get a Fabled Passage but I need my third mana, then it's the same as if this would have been an island. Yes, it technically is kind of like a mill, but I don't think it's worth it to just include it. For a simple card draw, there are options, right? Like Golden Egg, Gilded Globe, then Inquisitive Puppet against aggro. I don't think that it's worth it. Lucky Clover is another mill card with Merfolk Secretkeeper, and we are playing Brazen Borrowers, but I don't think it is worth it, especially not with the new things where it is. I think it's easier to get rid of enchantments and artifacts. Not only is it easier to get rid of, but aggro is currently really good. That's another reason why I really do not think that this is a competitive deck. If you do not have the wild cards to play it, don't play it. I'm actually only going to jump into the play queue with this because I'm not confident in it enough. That was not a sentence. I'm not confident in this deck to actually win something, right? It would be funny if it won, and I have won with Mono Blue Self Mill in this season, in this new set already, but it's unlikely, right? It is not something that's going to run away often simply because questing beast is a thing. And that's actually one of our main problems, right? Simic is currently playing the new Simic Titan, actually with elements? No, whatever. With those weird non-human living things, I guess that's how I'm going to call them because I'm apparently unable to speak the human language. Yeah, Temur Elementals. Oh, that's new. It's Temur Reclamation. We're screwed. Basically. I'm actually going to opt first. Because if I opt, then and if I decide to scry up, which in this case I'm actually not, then I can still play this and scry too. But if I play this and I would have decided to keep one of the cards scry to the top, then I would have been forced to either leave it at top again or scry then to the bottom, wasting a scry. Yes, we lose the potential of scrying in the end step of his turn, but he would have had mana anyways because he has a Wilderness Reclamation. He's just going to go ahead and play the Chemist's Insight. I think Callous Dismissal is really great here. I'm not necessarily sure if we want the opt. I think at the bottom the opt is also fairly reasonable, right? Because if we end up with having a Jace at the end, then that could be fairly solid. Next turn we do have 4 mana. I'm probably just going to Callous Dismissal his Wilderness Reclamation and play a Wall of Thoughts. Targeting my own... targeting myself simply to get rid of something. He bounces the enchantment, which isn't awful. It's actually fairly decent for us, simply because we can get another scry. Now we bounce the Wilderness Reclamation. This just sets him back for a turn or so. He actually goes with the counterspell, which I'm currently happy to let him resolve that. I'm still gonna go ahead and play the Wall of Lost Thoughts and mill myself a 4, because right now he's only at 5 mana, meaning that in total he is at 10, right? These decks really play with expansion explosion, so we have to be careful just to not get too low. In a BO3 matchup, if we had sideboarded in a way where we could just swap to instantly being mono blue mill, I would instantly decide to go, okay, well, I'm gonna go play mill now, because an expansion explosion deck's most of the time is going to draw a lot of cards. Here we see him actually drop the second Wilderness Reclamation. Now now it's time to get scared, right? Because these are going to be a stupid amount of mana, and there's not really a whole lot I can do to stop him. Yeah, other decks currently in the meta or that are being played with is Selesnya Enchantments. Then there is Mono White Life Gain, there's Mono Black Devotion, that's the first expansion explosion. Most of the time there are 4. I assume that this is another counterspell that he's keeping open, which is bad for us, right? Because he will literally just counterspell the Brazen Borrower. So I would either Brazen Borrower is instant speed, so that either during his turn I'll do it just so that the next expansion explosion is smaller. This is perfect for us. Because yes, it only sets him back a little bit, but a little bit is currently more than we can hope for. This game is basically lost. We had a really slow start. He had a really powerful start, especially against our deck, because we don't stop him from doing anything. Simply setting up with Growth Spiral and just finding enough draw to keep himself going. Yeah, and here we see the Nif Mizzet. There is not really... We have Frogify in hand, so I'm not just gonna wing it and book it, right? But let's play the... I decided to play the Thassa here first, simply because if he has another counterspell, I might be able to bait it out again. With the Thassa, he might think that I will purposefully get something to the top. Sadly, he doesn't take the bait. There is literally nothing helpful for us at the top. I guess Merfolk Secretkeeper. I don't opt for the chase simply because even if we get the chase, right, our first chase would need to be get rid of. And if this Frogify doesn't land, it's over, right? I'm not going to play over a game that's already lost, because this is lost if we are honest, right? He has a Wilderness Reclamation, he has a Nif Mizzet in hand, and every time he casts a spell, he's going to draw a card. This is a Growth Spiral. Does he not have a counterspell? If he doesn't have a counterspell, then this is actually fantastic. He's fetching. He's playing a land. He's dealing damages to my face, which isn't great. Oh my god, it actually resolved. I am happy, and I did not expect that. I'm pretty sure it's still a Niv Mizzet Parun, but it's just a frog instead of a dragon. So now here we have Niv Mizzet Parun, the 3 blue, 3 red legendary creature frog 1/1. Yeah. I don't know where, like, is there a place somewhere where you would play a 6 mana frog? We're screwed. Keep it PG. I kept a Merfolk Secretkeeper, so I don't think that there's anything we can do. I forgot that he even untaps. Yep. So we don't have any activated abilities. I'm going to go ahead and try to chase here. We could have also gone for the Castle Vantress, just try to scry 2 more. But I am astounded at what actually happens here. How many counterspells does my opponent play? So there was another chase at the top. The problem is if I activate this, he can shoot something. I'm not really scared of him shooting anything right now. Maybe I should have instantly, as I noticed that he was actually not Temur Elementals, but Wilderness Reclamation, swapped gears and started milling him instead of myself, because the odds aren't necessarily great that I'm going to mill him, but they're better than milling myself, right? Because I purposefully tried to mill myself from the get-go, from the start of this game, and I still have 31 cards left in my library, while he has 34. Sorry, 32? Oh, 31. Okay, we're equal. Yeah, this is not good. Again, do not craft this deck if you think you can't afford it, right? The new it's not really a new season. The new expansion is here. There are a lot of cards that you could craft, a lot of cards that you could get. Thassa is not necessarily one of them. At least this 2-mana self-mill thing. Now, if Pioneer ever comes to MTGA, then this obviously changes simply because this is an amazing effect. It's an amazing battle cry, so to speak. Simply because you could either flicker the creature with a white effect. The mono blue new Thassa also flickers creatures. It's extremely good value. By the way, I'm not playing this in the deck simply because we are playing an 0-4 without an ability. We are playing an 0-4 with an ability, and we're playing the 2-mana Thassa. None of these things are really beneficial to us. I'm not sure if I like this whatsoever, actually. But I'm going to keep it. It's a really slow hand, and if I'm against Celestia Adventures, I have no idea what's been going on, right? I have played yesterday all day, trying different decks, trying to make some decks work that probably shouldn't be tried to be made work. I don't know if that's English or not, but yeah. And it just didn't work out. And now I'm seeing not necessarily jank decks, but not meta decks, right? Because let's be honest, if you're facing a control deck and you see, and this is what your opponent plays, I am literally, like, if I was an actual control deck right now, I either would have a board wipe in hand or I would be fishing for one. That's also a weird choice of action. Choose a card name. Right now, I think actually of playing the Thassa's Oracle, so I don't know how the spell is called though on the Brazen Borrower, so I'm just gonna call the enchantment itself again. Because yes, we might not play it. It doesn't matter if I play the land first or not. This is only for 3, so we're definitely not going to win with this. But yeah, now next turn we have the possibility of playing the wall and the Medomais Prophecy. Medomais Prophecy. I don't think this will go good for us. How many buffs does one dude need? I'm actually just going to jump block and sack it off. Like, actually, what the heck? I'm now at 7 HP. I'm not actually going to take the card draw. I'm going to play this. I'm going to mill myself. This is the first real mill that we had this game. This is bad. This is really, really bad. We do have a bounce. I'm going to wait with this bounce on instant speed because if he has another buff, right, and it's only on one creature and he's trying... Oh my god. Why? It doesn't actually do anything for us if we bounce. Yeah, this is over. This is actually lost because I don't have any mass bounce in this deck. And I'm at 3 HP. And he has a 4/4. I just want to say that his deck is not good, and you should not aspire to build those kind of decks. even if it seems really dominating right now, it is not. He played 3 creatures and then tapped out every single turn. In real life, what would happen is there would be a Teferi, there would be a Murderous Rider, there would be so much different things happening to him that I can't even begin to tell you. Now this would be a 2/2 and I can bounce one of those. So that's good. And then jump block with the other one. And I mean, I'm playing literal doo-doo, right? Like mono blue self-mill that is apparently really not working right now, which makes this video look really, really bad. But he still hasn't killed me, which is just unfathomable. Unfathomable. I'm not a native English speaker. I excuse myself for my pronunciation. Block. Thank you, MTGA client, for your cooperation. I'm actually astounded that he didn't do anything here and gained life. I mean, there are 4 cards in his hand, and you're telling me that none of these are helpful? I mean, it's still lost, don't get me wrong, right? I do not have a board wipe in this deck. It's definitely over. Yep, this is over. Okay, that was nice, I guess. Let's go over the deck. Maybe there are some improvements. Not necessarily improvements, but things that one could change. Because, especially seeing this... Yep. So, first of all, we could go up to 24 lands again. And if we go up to 24 lands, then we definitely... Frogify actually played fairly good. Callous Dismissal was also good. I don't know why there was a Cerulean Drake in our deck. That shouldn't have been there. I don't think it made any big difference. I don't think we need that many Jace, right? Because, like, yes, I understand that he's one of our main win conditions, being Jace and Thassa's Oracle. But the problem with Jace is that, first of all, he's a 4-mana CMC card, and I understand that I'm about to put a 6-mana CMC card into this deck. But he comes down on turn 4, and either we can protect him or we can't protect him. And if we can protect him, he is going to advance our mill counter, if you want to call it that, by 3. By milling us for actual 2 and then drawing us 1 card, which just isn't beneficial, right? Like, across the board, this isn't helpful. Then, what else? Like, Flood of Tears sounds really good in this deck simply because we have Merfolk Secretkeepers, we have Omen of the Sea, we maybe potentially have Medomai's Prophecy, we have a Frogify on our opponent's creature, probably again, and this is only permanence, right? A token is also a permanent, but it's not a card. That is something really important, meaning that even Callous Dismissal gives us something. And if we cast this for 6, right, we can still cheat in a 4-mana Jace, we can cheat in just another Thassa, we can also just get back our Drowned Secrets and then storm off, like other apostrophes, like hard apostrophes. We can definitely play more with the mono blue self-mill aspect. Maybe it is actually supposed to be a Dimir, maybe it is actually supposed to be an Azorius, and more based on enchantments with this, for example, and then flickers, because this says whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, and then we use enchantment creatures. I might do another version, because this has just brought so many ideas now to me. But for now, this is going to be it for the control deck. Again, do not craft this deck. This is a warning. Do not craft this deck. It is not good. I don't advise you to do it. If you like mill and you have a good mill deck, because apparently this is not a good mill deck. We just saw me lose literally twice in a row against not good decks. So trust me, do not craft this deck. Then have fun playing the game. I hope you are better with the client than I am, because I apparently suck. And yeah, tell me in the comments where I misplayed, because I probably misplayed somewhere at least. and I hopefully maybe see you again. Not see you, hear you. I don't like. Yeah, see you, not hear you. Yeah, hear you. Probably not. Bye.